Hi, welcome back to part two, I guess you would say, of my PBL presentation. I hope you made it through part one. That was a little bit philosophical and a lot of educational philosophy. Something I was just thinking about recently that maybe I should have put in the first part is that I feel like PBL is also important in the library because it levels the playing field for all students. They are all having access to the same things. It is being done in school. I know a lot of my students don't have access to things at home that they would at school, and it kind of creates an uneven balance of the haves and the have-nots. And so I love that the library is able to just level out that playing field and give everyone access to the same things. So that's another reason why, personally, I feel like the library is a great place for the students to work on these projects. And so I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable here with you. And I'm going to share, speaking of vulnerability, at the end of the slideshow, and I'll be sharing just the plain slideshow so you don't have to watch this video, but there is a link embedded in there to Brene Brown's talk on vulnerability in education. And I think it's worth watching. It's only about 5 minutes, but it spoke to me. Maybe it will speak to some of you. All right, so I'm going to be vulnerable and share my first attempt at PBL at Carver and just some examples from that and the reason behind doing it and how it went. And hopefully we'll begin to do many more. So again, just a little plug for that PBL Works. If you ever have opportunity to participate in one of their workshops, please, please, please take advantage of that because they just get you excited about it. So here we go. The first one I did was with a 5th grade class, and it was called Making a Difference, Natural Disasters. And I'll get to a few reasons why I chose that. And the first thing was it was something that interested me. So I think that's just personally, I think that's a big part of the PBL is choose something you are interested in and as well. So I love talking about weather-related events, the natural disasters. It's always something that fascinates me, and I think it fascinates kids. It's kind of that balance between it's scary, but it's interesting, and, it just grabs our attention. So choose something that interests you. I'm also interested in the environment and animals and national parks. So whatever speaks to you, that is what I would choose to try to see if you can develop a PBL around that. Just don't maybe go with something else that somebody else has done because it really needs to speak to you on a personal level because you will be more invested in it and your excitement will show through as well to the kids. So also, again, another point for librarians is I have 4 5th grade teachers, but I only had one teacher that bought into it, that was really excited about it. Don't try to force it upon a teacher, a classroom teacher. Partner up with somebody that you can work together well, you can collaborate. It's supposed to be a positive thing. So even if one of your 5th grade classes wants to do it and the others don't, so be it. Go with that one because I can guarantee you you'll enrich those lives of those students in that one class. And, you don't have to do it in every class. If the teacher has not bought in, it's not worth pushing it and trying to do it on your own. So I had a wonderful teacher, Mrs. Butler, Meryl Butler, who I'm going to also link her video at the end. I'm not going to play it for you, but she speaks to the process. She speaks to what her perspective was from a classroom teacher. So I think that might be valuable as well. So I had her collaboration and it went well with what they were studying. And it also, they were doing regions of the US and they were, plus their science curriculum. We talked about weather related events that, were more likely to happen in different regions and why that is. And so they were learning about, the science behind the weather and the regions of the US. And I also, bottom line is, I wanted students, and I try to do this a lot, I really want students to buy in to the human impact, and not just kind of looking at those natural disasters as, science, but really how they affect the people around them. And this was, it just so happened that we had that tornado go through Richmond right before we were introducing this, and so they could relate to it. They could feel what it be in that situation, what it felt like. Of course, it wasn't as bad as some of the other natural disasters that we were looking at, but I really want them to feel the human impact of things. Look at it creates empathy within them. And I think we all need a little bit to develop a lot of empathy for one another and for all of our situations. So I love that part of the PBL too, creating empathy within the students. And whether it's the human impact or with the animals, we had certain students that were really drawn to the impact of hurricanes and the animals and what happens to the animals. And so we had a visitor from the Farm Bureau that came and spoke to us, but really spoke to that group that kind of developed around the animal impact of a natural disaster and the fires. And so I don't know, it just worked really well as far as student buy-in, teacher buy-in, and what the students were learning. So we started out with that. I will say I will put a timeline in the next few slides of how long it took. You can't just jump into it. I really like spending a few weeks leading up to it, just showing videos, showing news reports, really getting the students interested and embracing what impact these disasters have had on others. And so that's where it broadens their horizon from their community to global impact. So we're gonna move on right now. This I just wanted to put in here. This is the this is available on PBL Works. This is kind of the gold standard PBL when you're thinking of designing a PBL. The things that make it gold standard or make it the top of the line PBL. And I would not at all get hung up on this, because to me, this just happens naturally with a PBL. And like I say, this authenticity is a big, huge piece for me. And that's what we were talking about with the natural disasters. And we just had to go as far as opening up the news and showing them news clips, and I feel like that is, you can use that with whatever PBL you choose something that you like and choose something that is authentic. And students are very smart. They know if something is authentic or if you're just giving them something to do just because, busy work or so students are not blind to that. Even, as young as they are in elementary school, they are not blind to that fact either. They can see through it. So authentic, student voice and choice, and that kind of happens naturally. Give them time to reflect on what they are working on. Go back. Even after their presentation or their project that they've created to share with others, have them have that reflection piece at the end. What would they have done differently, if they were to go back and redo it? What did they learn in the process? And that also goes along with the critique and revision and the public product. I feel like these happen before the public product, but they can also happen after the public product as well. And then this, I guess, is the beginning of it all, the challenging problem or question. And then that is where their inquiry comes in. And so their inquiry is going to be student driven. It's going to be something that they have developed interest in, a piece of the puzzle that you've been talking about. So that's just, I wanted to put that in there. This is their gold standard. And I feel like this wheel, it just happens organically when you're working on a PBL. So just as my example for the one that I did, here are just my experts and community partners that I had come in just with this one specific PBL. I think as librarians, we have a unique position. We can take advantage of having community people come in all the time. And I think that's really, really important for our kids, no matter what we are doing, whether we're doing a PBL or we're just looking into something else in the library. Look around you, find experts, find people willing to come in. And I feel like even in our virtual world that we're in right now, that might even be easier because of time constraints. And I feel like one good thing coming out of this virtual world that we're in is it's going to be natural. This is going to be a natural flow even after post COVID. It's going to be kind of natural to all of us. We're going to have those virtual relationships with people and be able to hop on and meet with people virtually, and it's just going to become more natural. All right, so we had Mr. Jonathan McNamara come in. He's the communications director for the American Red Cross, so he could speak to disaster-related events, evacuations. He has been all over the United States, and he really, really piqued the students' interest because he could give them real-life stories of things that he witnessed, and again, building on that empathy piece. And when we had a couple of local meteorologists come in, John Bernier and Zach Daniel, these two, and I will say the experts, they're so willing to come in, and they also I always kind of say, we're interested in looking more at this aspect or that aspect when you come in. So if you could speak to that, related to that, that would help us more. And these two gentlemen came in and did a great job. Mr. Bernier did more of the science behind weather. And then Mr. Daniel, Zach Daniel, he brought the Storm Rider 6 big truck. And so the kids all thought that was cool. They got to go outside and he gave them kind of a tour of the truck. So they loved that. And then Tony Banks was our visitor from the Virginia Farm Bureau who spoke at length to our group of young ladies who were more interested in the aspect of animals. And we talk about having a to-go emergency kit, but he spoke about, really, if you have animals, what should you have ready for those animals? What kind of to-go kit do you need for them? What kind of supplies do you need? So, he was really, really fascinating and interesting to talk to. He helped them make up kits for animals and things like that. So, and all it takes is just one email out. I emailed my staff before we even started on this. I emailed my staff and I said, does anybody have anybody that is associated with American Red Cross or I can't remember the other just put it out there to your staff. And then teachers are so willing to help and they have amazing resources. Put it out to your library cohort, put it out to your library friends. And someone didn't know Mr. McNamara, but they knew someone who then said they couldn't come, but then they put me in touch with somebody else who put me in touch with Mr. McNamara. So it just kind of happens. Don't get discouraged if the first time you reach out to someone, they don't say, oh yeah, I'll be right there. Don't give up. Keep asking, well, is there someone, if you can't come, who would you suggest? So, I think innately librarians are all good at that. We don't take no for an answer. We keep asking and, searching. So just don't stop. Just, there are experts out there. There are people willing to hook you up with experts. So, and then experts also get the teachers more excited about it and myself. So I love that. All right. So that would be my first thing before you even start your PBL is just kind of laying the groundwork for it, getting the students interested. Okay. So here are kind of a little bit of a timeline. The classroom teacher is teaching their classroom curriculum. So in this case, they were teaching weather, they were teaching regions, they were teaching storms, all the things related. I was introducing natural disasters to them. I was, getting in line the guest speakers, showing videos of news reports and news stories and things that were happening right now, wildfires, tornadoes, things like that to get them interested. And that took, I would think I'll have to look back, maybe 3 weeks. So then the students, and this is where it just blossoms into this organic, flow of things. And this is when you have to relinquish control a little bit, because we love to control. We love to put them in groups, and this group and this group, and I'm going to choose the group. It works better if you just allow it to kind of flow on its own. So the students were given choice of one of these natural disasters, and then they were to research it, where it happens. Is it more? And I'm going to put all of those documentation, forms in the folder as well, so you guys can just take a look. And it was something that I kind of pieced together, bits and pieces of things that I found when I was researching. So the students were researching. That took a few weeks. So as you can see, this is not over quickly. You have to be willing to give your time, but I will say what you get in the end, it's well worth the time that you have allowed for it. And then organically, the students, sorry, I keep using that word a lot. The students choose a collaborative team. So maybe there were, maybe 6 students that were interested in, earthquakes, but maybe out of those 6, 2 wanted to do this. This was their project they wanted to work on. 2 wanted to make something with Legos. 2 wanted to do a green screen. 2 wanted to do just a video, a PSA. So it kind of happens on its own, and you kind of have to go with that. And you also have to rely on that classroom teacher. They know their students' personalities. They know what will work and won't work. And I would say let it go until there's like a real red flag. So, students are going to buy in more if they have their own choice. And then we just gave them time. We gave them time to work on their project. What I mentioned, some of the things that they were going, PSA, safety kits. Some of them were doing to-go kits, and they wanted to do a message to go to families as far as what they needed to have included in the to-go kit. So they had to research that. They had to go onto different sites and see what are the things we need in a to-go kit. So you have to allow them time to work on these projects again, and just know that when they come in, that's going to be their job. When they're coming in the library, they're working on these projects. And I will say the students become so overwhelmingly involved in this. They are asking to come in during their recess. They are asking to come in during their free time if they have any in the classroom. They are asking, they have their library time. And I will say, one negative is my schedule the past 2 years has been, the flexibility has been completely taken out of my schedule, which is very upsetting because, it could be a huge roadblock. And I could say, if I only have 40 minutes, I'm not gonna even bother with this. It's just not enough time. But you kind of have to work through that, and you just have to realize 40 minutes is 40 minutes, and it's valuable time, and I am going to take advantage of that time. And so students find other times to come into the library. I will say my schedule as far as teaching has been less flexible, but the library is still always open for students to come in and work, and that flexibility has not been taken away. My doors are always open, and so students were able to come in anytime that they could to work on it. And thank goodness I have an assistant who embraces this as well, and she is just as gung-ho into this as I am. So that's kind of an idea of the order that things went. And then the last piece is, you have to give an end time to this. It can't go on forever. So at a certain point, we didn't set that end time up until we kind of saw how long things were taking and how many more weeks they could use. And then, it could go on forever. So at a certain point, you have to get with the teacher and you do have to assign an end date. And that is when it comes time to share their presentation, share it however you can share it with the community, share it on Twitter, share it on Instagram. If parents can come in and observe, and watch them present it, send it out to your experts that came in. They are in the public eye. They have ways to share this with their people. So, and you always, remember you have to get permission. You have from the students, from parents to share. You probably have events in your community where you are teaching that you can share. So I'm going to just share a couple of those things, and you never know what's going to happen. That's the beauty of PBL. You never know who you are going to reach out to and who is going to say, why don't we try this? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And I'll have to say, Jonathan McNamara was that person for me. Never in a million years could I have seen the value and what he brought to this project, but I could not have done it without him. So I think right here, I'm going to go ahead and play this. I have something that he made and that he shared out with the American Red Cross. And here we go. Okay, so you saw, and you can see in the background there, the library is not a quiet place while they're all working on this. They're working on all different things, and that's kind of the beauty of it. They're all choosing what they want to work on, what they want to do, and their groups. So I can't thank Jonathan McNamara enough for helping us out with this. So and keep in mind, I chose to share with you. Keep in mind, these are fifth graders. It's not perfect, but hopefully it's a beginning to their creativity. And anyway, this is one that a couple of boys did. Okay, so bottom line, you kind of just have to roll with it. They explained to me that that was an example of, the tornado siren going off, getting inside the building. And again, you have to appreciate these are fifth graders, and you have to allow their creativity to go. The next one is very short. It's the girls that we saw in Jonathan McNamara's video. Again, this is kind of the background. And this is important because I feel like this is a good time to look at the reflection piece and talking to these girls afterwards. They learned a lot. They know that they needed a tighter shot. They know that they had to speak louder. They know that maybe they spoke too fast. And so, this is where the reflection piece comes in, and they're old enough to reflect and to realize how they would do it better the next time. Okay, so those girls you see, they didn't narrow down to one disaster. They picked all of them and kind of did a PSA about what to do in any situation. So just a couple of examples, and here is just some quotes from some of those students in their own words of how they felt about PBL. They hadn't done any PBLs before, and just what they learned and their buy-in to it. All right, so here is kind of the timeline, and you see that our first visit was November, and then this did remember that we do had Christmas break in here and Thanksgiving, so there are times when we can't meet. So here are the dates and the timelines. So, from November to March, and I know that might be giving people heart attacks like, oh my gosh, that takes up all of my library time. And, it's just personal. It's personal. And I feel like what they learned from doing this was important. All of the things that they learned, were important from this. So in my opinion, I think it was valuable. So everybody, like I say, you've got to think about that on your own and be willing to give up that time for the students to do it. So here are just a few of the pictures, of researching and the experts coming in. And one thing I will share is this is Henrico County's learner profile. And when you think about PBL, I think, embraces every single thing on this Henrico learner profile. It is teaching quality character. The students are authentically choosing a real world problem. They are empathetic. They are showing character. They are becoming global citizens. They are communicating with others through their collaboration with their group, and they're communicating with others through their product presentation. they have to become critical and creative thinkers because they are critically thinking through those problems and they are creatively thinking through their building their PBL, whatever their project presentation is. Okay. So I just thought that was important because it does embrace every single piece of this Henrico learner profile, which isn't this all of those things what we want for all of our students. All right, so the last thing I'm going to look at is, I would say go on to that PBL Works website. They have amazing ideas, and maybe if you don't want to use one of their ideas, you can see changing it a little bit to fit something that speaks to you. So these are just a few of my ones that I have upcoming that I really want to get into. Third grade, to go along with their habitat curriculum, I would like to have in experts, zookeepers, and architects, because I would like for, once the students have looked into the habitats of the different animals and what they need, I would like for them to design a habitat in a zoo by trying to help an endangered animal, choosing one of those animals and designing a habitat with everything that that animal would need in that habitat. Or if they didn't choose to design a habitat, they could choose something to help, choose an animal that's having endangered, in the world, whether it's, their habitat is being threatened, whether it's pollution, choose something and design something to help that animal. Okay. So I think students, are drawn into the animals too. So I think that one would be a great one for third grade. Fourth grade, things that interest me, Virginia studies, the weather, environment, landforms. And we did this one last year where I had national park rangers come in and speak to the students. We explored all the national parks, but more than that, we explored the issues and problems that are facing national parks, whether it's overcrowding, whether it's people, ruining the ecosystem that is in a national park. Trust me, there are so many problems facing our national parks. And then students chose a national park. They chose one of the issues that national park is having, and then we were just getting to it before COVID. They were designing something to get the word out to others about making a change, leaving no trace, something to help that national park, something to help the habitat that's being threatened in that national park. And then fifth grade last year, the natural disasters was 2 years ago. Last year, we were doing more things more ocean related. So we were looking into all of the threats facing the oceans, and students were just beginning, unfortunately, to design their collaborating and designing with partners their project to take on one of the issues that is facing our oceans and environmental changes and things. So that's just a snapshot into some ideas for third, fourth, and fifth grade. I'm sure your wheels are already spinning into things that you are interested in and things that speak to you. It could be something, a local problem. It could be a global problem. And you probably already have in mind some things that you are interested in that you would like to develop a PBL around. So as we end up, I'm not going to show this. You can link back into here. This is Brene Brown, and she's speaking on vulnerability in education. But the thing that I love the most about this is the point that she makes that vulnerability, you have to be a little bit vulnerable, because out of vulnerability, that is where creativity and innovation grow. So the idea of creativity and innovation coming out of vulnerability. So I think that goes well with how I came into working on a PBL. You have to allow those students, remember the place to breathe, to be creative. And that is how things are innovative. And she talks a lot in there about you have to be, with presentations, the students' presentations, they have to be a little bit vulnerable in sharing those with others, but that's how we grow. So I think PBL also teaches resilience in students as well. So I thank you for your time. Come back into the slideshow to watch Brene Brown's. It's short; it's about 5 minutes. Her this short little snippet of different clips of her talking about vulnerability in education. Again, I want to thank PBL Works, and I've just linked a few different articles in here that you might be interested in reading, just in support of PBL. I know there are many educational studies out there, and these are just a few that I thought I came across while I was working. This is very interesting about what employers are saying, why students are coming to them and they can't write. And I thought that was very interesting because I thought it kind of talked about how PBL can help that, because students are coming out, knowing how to write like a 5-paragraph essay, but if they're asked to give their opinion on something or speak to something to present, the employers are finding that students are having a real issue with that. So anyway, another rabbit hole I went down, but of why PBL, how PBL can help students with their writing, and I thought that was interesting. So thank you again. And if you have any questions, again, my name is Deanna Hamlin. I'm at Carver Elementary in Henrico County. And this is my email, dchamlin@henrico.k12.va.us. So thank you very much for your time. And please email me if you have any questions.